In this video I'm going to show you how I've made the drawers for the tool cabinet. Here's a completed one, so you'll see how I've done this. I'm just preparing the drawer fronts for the tool cabinet and I'm using more sported beech. My big old jointer plane, it's a record number 7, has come out into service because I'm having to join a couple of planks together, and this plane's really good when you need to get two straight edges that match up to each other. I don't use it very often, but when I do, it really does do the job superbly well. It takes off a very fine, nice, precise long shaving, gets rid of any humps and bumps, and two planks join just so perfectly with this. As you can see, it's got a very narrow throat there, which helps take off the fine shaving. My number 4 plane's in the back, so you can see just how big that number 7 is. I've been busy cutting out all the sides and the fronts and the backs of the drawers, and I'm now going to actually dovetail them. So I've set up a dovetail jig for doing this one. It's a lot quicker. And I've just been doing a quick sort of test run to make sure that I've got the faces of the wood worked out roughly. So I've marked those up. So all ready to get going. The glue up of the 4 drawers is now complete and it seems to have gone fine. I've put dovetails on the front and back. Makes them nice and strong. I've used some chestnut for the insides. It was some that was left over from one of my friends who was making trugs, and quite nice wood. I've cut quite thin sections of it. I'll need to do a bit of cleaning up of the joints just to get them nice and flush. So really with the drawers, a lot of planing up to get them to fit nicely. I've got to groove the sides for the runners, and I need to make some little knobs. I'm going to make some knobs out of wood. Well, I'm just doing a bit of cleaning up of the actual drawers, so cleaning up the sides and the joints, etc. And I think my plane's actually getting a little bit blunt, so I need to have a resharpen. I mean, people have different views on sharpening, and there are probably as many different theories about how to sharpen something and all of that. So, I mean, I use water wheels for some things, I use diamond stones for others and water stones for others, but I have to say, when it comes to a plane, it's my personal preference, and I know other people may feel differently. I like to use an oil stone, and the one thing I do use, and some people would probably say it's a rip-off, but is the actual stone oil. Now, I used to use car oil, and there's no doubt about it, in my view, car oil gums up your stone. The other thing I have noticed is the oil stone technology has improved over the years. I've put the blade up and down the stone a few times. I have a little bit of oil on this strop and I just whiz it up and down, and I find it really helps. The other thing, perhaps just to quickly say, is obviously your cutting edge at the front is important, but so's the back of your plane, and I always start off by just getting that as flat as I can, just by rubbing it a few times, and when I've actually finished doing the little bit of stropping, I do also strop the back to get that flat and get rid of any burr. And I think sometimes people forget about the flat side, but in some ways it's almost as important as your cutting edge. So there you are. Anyway, I'll get a little bit more of an edge back on that plane so that it sings, and then I know you've got a singing plane, you've got a nice sharp plane. In between doing the drawers, I've just been adding a few more shelves to the inside of the cabinet. So I'm having quite a few shelves one side and not so many the other side. I'm just making up some little handles for the drawers and also for the main cupboard doors. Just roughly, well, I've done a mock-up here, and I'm going to now cut out some more. Essentially what will happen is this handle, it will be buried into the wood like that. So it just protrudes slightly. Won't be like sharp edges on it. I'll hollow it very slightly on each side. So at the moment I'll just cut it crudely. I'll get that smoothed off and get the hollows in, and that will make a nice little pull handle. I have a very sophisticated way of marking out these handles, I joke, because what I do is use a paint tin for the curve. You wouldn't think I had a compass somewhere, would you? And then I've got 2 blocks of wood. One roughly sets the depth into the door or drawer, and the other one sets the depth of the actual knob. And then all I do is mark them to take them down on the bandsaw just so they're slightly angled in. There we are. It just speeds up the whole process of making them. And hopefully it gets them all looking much the same. So I'll now bandsaw those out and then smooth them off, hollow them, and that would be my little handles. I like wooden handles, they just feel nice, and also they are quite a bit cheaper obviously than metal ones. I've just been thickening up the base of the cabinet, thought I'd have a little break from doing drawers, so I've just put in an extra batten of wood all round. And the idea there really is to balance it up a little bit so it looks a bit more substantial at the base. I think visually that will work better. And also from a structural point of view, it obviously makes it a lot stronger. Well, I've completed the cabinet drawers. I'll show you what they look like. So there they are, all four of them. With the handles, I've put them in and they're just flat on top, but they're actually hollowed out underneath. And I'll show you what I mean on the cupboard doors. I haven't actually glued these particular ones in yet, but they're just hollowed underneath, and that's just nice for getting your finger there. Anyway, there they all are, matching up quite nicely. Quite pleased with those actually. So I've got a bit more fitting out to do inside of the cabinet. You'll also see that I've got the thicker base on here now, so the double layer base, and I think that just gives it a bit more balance. So as we go up the cabinet, it gets lighter, you get the thinner top one here. So that's the cabinet drawers completed.